I think I will not go into the nitty-gritty details of the election observation mission. I think you are relatively aware, but usually, at least, we would normally deploy an election observation mission 4 to 6 weeks before the election. So, would the decision be made to deploy for these elections, we would maybe be here around mid-January. The mission would be comprised by a core team of experts. The chief observer would come from the European Parliament, and we would usually have a number of long-term observers and short-term observers on the ground, both before the elections to cover the campaign period, etc., but also after the elections in terms of possible court cases, etc., that comes after E-Day. So that was very brief. If you have any questions with regards to the exploratory mission or how the EUM election observation mission works, please feel free to. But what we are here for is basically to hear from you. And I think the first and foremost question is about whether you consider the deployment of an EU election observation mission as adding value in Nigeria for the forthcoming elections. And then I'm sure that my colleagues also have some additional questions for you. But maybe to start there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larkin. Welcome to Nigeria once more. We, on behalf of the party, and then specifically the National Working Committee, want to welcome you, thank you and the whole of the EU for showing an interest in the democratic process in Nigeria. After independence and years of military rule, this is the first time we are having an uninterrupted democratic process close to 25 years. And therefore, it is very helpful that you have continued to show support of the European Union. And I think that to answer your first question, yes, we want the world to know that what is happening in Nigeria is democratic, is transparent, and therefore it gives legitimacy to whoever emerges as a winner, particularly when we have a free and fair election. First of all, let me say that the electoral process has improved over the years since we started this journey in 1999. A lot of improvements have taken place. Last time you were here, we had cause to discuss these things. But a lot of improvements have taken place, particularly with introduction of new technology of elections. And we hope we'll try to stay on that lane so that the wish of the electorate will be respected. And therefore, when we see various observer teams coming from different multilateral organizations, whether it's the African Union or the West African Union or the EU, we always say the more the better. We hope and pray that it will not just be tokenism of sending a few people, because Nigeria is such a big country, 36 states. Most of the states are bigger than some European countries. And therefore, we expect that you send a reasonable number of representation, because you're going to be dealing with thousands and thousands of voting units, close to 2,000 wards all over the country. Therefore, observing only probably in the urban centers does not help. Therefore, our recommendation is that the EU should, together with other observer agencies, send as many people as possible to observe. we as a political party are generally happy with the performance of our electoral body in INEC so far. They've made a lot of improvements in the last few elections, and as we've always done, where we lost, genuinely we are accepted. Where we also won, genuinely we expect that other political parties should accept that we have won. We are very confident in our capacity to win the next elections, not just local elections, but the national elections, because of the level of preparedness and the acceptability of Nigerian people of our programs and our activities so far. What we are worried about, which we expressed last time we met, is the possibility of the party in government trying to interfere with the electoral process. We are very apprehensive of this, and a few days ago, the United Committee of Political Parties raised an alarm of such a possibility. And as we go around and perhaps interact with the party in government, it is important that you try to stress this point, that what we want in Nigeria, what Nigerians want, is a free and fair election, so that every vote should count. And if every vote counts, we have no doubt in our mind whatsoever that our party is going to emerge victorious, because we know what we have done in terms of preparation. We know that our policies in the first 16 years we were in government, Nigerians have seen a difference and are prepared to vote massively for our party. All we wish to see is that the electoral umpire should do what is needful, and that the state machineries in various agencies should not be used to thwart the will of the Nigerian people. So we welcome you. We appreciate your interest, and we hope that you will send at least 5 million observers to man every polling booth. And hopefully you should also send people who have technical capacity, because most of the elections have shifted to technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, sir.
My colleagues are here. If there is any of them who have any additional thing to say, are very experienced politicians, and they may wish to say something or even ask you any questions.
Can you take more questions?
Yeah, sure. Don't worry, fine.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. In terms of the technology, maybe just to mention that on our side we have been working quite extensively with working on improving our observation when it comes to observing electoral technologies, and I realize that this is also going to be important in Nigeria. But I'll hand over to Hannah.
Thank you very much for the chance to meet and to hear your views today. I was wondering if this issue of the ruling party using government offices to their advantage. Of course, the PDP is ruling in some states, so I wondered what measures the PDP is taking in the states where you are in control to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen in your states. Thank you.
Well, it's not just in the state where we have control. But the PDP is the biggest party in this country. It's the only party that you will find strong representation in every village across the country. Over the years, being a party that has very many experienced politicians, we've worked on mechanisms to police our elections, from the polling booths to the collection centers. In the past, the collection centers were the key areas of contestation, where manipulations did take place. And we had our own mechanisms of policing that. But today, that has changed because the beavers in the polling unit, the elections are transmitted directly to the servers. And therefore, in 2019, we had cause to raise an alarm publicly about the manipulation of the server. It was so bad, INEC came out and said, and I think the server was not there. So we think that this should not happen because it doesn't give credibility to the elections. Otherwise, in terms of policing elections, not just in states, there is no other political party that was able to produce candidates for every single election except this party. There is also no other party that you can go in every constituency you find a strong presence like the People's Democratic Party. In terms of the local machinery per se, but also the capacity of the states to even manipulate the critical technology that is there for the elections. So we are prepared as a party to do what is needful all across the country. But there are certain levels of interventions that become critical. We need everybody to pay attention to that so that we are not shortchanged because we believe we won the 2019 elections and the elections were deliberately manipulated in favor of the ruling party. Any more questions?
Maybe you can, your assessment of the security situation as of now, and then projection into the election. Do you see the dynamics changing? Do you see the possibility that elections will hold across everywhere in Nigeria, or the possibility that it could hold in some places and then some flashpoints that may not have elections and all of that?
I want to be optimistic and to believe that elections should be held all over the country and will be held all over the country. I don't want, but there are challenges in some states across the country. I think about 6 or so states, especially in the northern part of the country. And in the past, those are areas where the ruling party simply did what they like doing best, subverting the will of the people. But today, with the reduction of the beaver, if it is genuinely conducted in those states, then it should be possible that we'll have a free and fair result. But it is very difficult, given the security challenges that the country has gone through over the years, for us to sit here and tell you accurately what will happen. But I think as you go around and interface with INEC, with other security agencies, which I suspect you should be able to do, you'll be able to assess their own level of preparedness. But definitely every Nigerian is to be worried about the security situation in the country. Even when you sleep in your room, you are worried. So in those critical states where the security challenges are so huge, we believe that there are definitely going to be a few challenges here and there. But it is the responsibility of the state security agencies to ensure that elections are held. And I think a little nudge or external pressure from agencies like the EU will also be important. So I say it's an important question, yes, that without proper policing of the terrain, it will be difficult for some people who will even be scared of coming out to vote. But we believe that it is necessary that the security services will do their job. Any question?
If I may, just a question related to the campaign which has just started a few weeks ago. Maybe just give us a brief overview of your views when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, if you see any challenges, concerns there, and also maybe looking also into new technology and use of social media in the campaign, if you maybe have any concerns there related to misinformation. We hear quite a lot about these particular topics, so if you have any comments, maybe please.
Well, I'll make a few comments. The National Public Secretary is there. He will also make some few comments, especially related to things like both the conventional and social media. To the best of my knowledge, Nigerians are very vibrant people. Even under military rule, we spoke our minds. It is the process of speaking our mind that it was possible to form this political party that made sure that the military handed over power. So it is very difficult to suppress the freedom of expression in Nigeria. It's very, very difficult. It will take a hell lot of effort to do that. I would say that, of course, in certain places where we want to, let's say, hold a rally, sometimes you have the challenge of the government in power trying to make it difficult for you to get the necessary venue here and there. Even our convention, we had to navigate and put pressure before we ultimately got a space here in Abuja to carry out the convention. So there are always small hitches like that where the government is trying to play cat and mouse with the opposition and so forth. But in terms of expression, I think Nigerians even overexpress themselves, especially with the social media today. Every Nigerian is a journalist, they post things as they want, so I think it's very difficult to suppress information flow in Nigeria because no single government, not even military governments, are able to suppress the views of Nigerians. But the police secretary may want to add something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome again. Our own overview is the fact that the study of the chairman that it will be difficult to actually suppress. However, the challenge is that in the social media area, where deliberately stories are planted. I mean, this is a challenge all over the world, but again, here because we don't have very strong laws to contain that, so it could be a challenge to this elections. But overall, it's a vibrant space, and we create a lot of activity in that space. So we are not concerned about that. We are active as well because we're there. We're able to push out our own programs and then expand it to the local level because in Nigeria there are a lot of young people particularly that are very, very active in that space. But as a general comment to what the chairman has said here, some of the challenges relate about the technology. And who would hope that the EU would put pressure and emphasize that? Because we've been having this conversation that the beavers could be reversed, that is instant transmission of results could be modified. So we expect that you would use the platform of the EU to put pressure because in developing this, EU has been a partner to the Independent Electoral Commission, providing technical support, providing funding. And if you go to this level, we have the beavers as part of a process of ensuring that we have free and fair elections, then the EU that was involved from the formation should be interested in what happened because this is an outcome of your own investment. You should be concerned about that. Secondly, on the issue of splitting of space and constricting it to other political parties, we had an experience in the last election at Osun State, where all public spaces were denied to our party. The final rally actually took place on a highway. And that if we gain what we think you should bring to the fore before the government, particularly at the federal level, so that they can speak to their party government in the states. Where, for instance, we can bring in exorbitant prices and they say, look, it will cost you 10 million to hire space. That is part of constricting capacity for people to express their network, for us to sell our program to the people. So I think those are the issues that I think you must probably put more searchlight and then emphasize that you have this conversation around. Thank you very much.
Any more? Finally.
Thank you. Could I ask your opinion on how the courts are performing and the role of the judiciary? Obviously, there have been cases after the primaries, but also if after the results of the general election you're not happy with the process, if you would envisage taking a case through the courts on that. Thank you.
Well, let me start by saying that Nigeria has a history of a very strong judiciary. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Nigeria had some of the best jurists in the world, some of who actually served at international levels. And we're very proud of our judiciary. That continued for a long time. This particular government came in and attacked the judiciary and politicized the judiciary very seriously. But Nigerians cried out. We believe and hope that that will change in terms of the judiciary returning to its respected days. We have gone through all sorts of court cases in recent times. Of course, in a big system like the Nigerian judiciary, there are some judges that need to do better than what they've done so far. But in general, as you go higher up in the judiciary, it gets better. This party has been injured by the judiciary, especially in the state where my national secretary comes from. We won an election here, had a governor in place who was there for about 8 months. And then suddenly we got a very shocking judgment. And what was so disappointed that it came from the Supreme Court of our country, and Nigerians didn't take kindly to that. So I think that generally there are isolated cases that are worrisome. But on the whole, the judiciary tries to do its job as we go higher. In recent times, we have had cases at the lower level of the judiciary, cases that were determined in a way that were not really very helpful. But as we go higher up at the appeal court and the Supreme Court level, I think the judiciary is strong and is getting stronger. We just have a new Chief Justice sworn in. And the signals we are getting as a party is that the judiciary wants to do its job as it should be done. So we hope it will not be politicized. There will be no undue pressure put on the judiciary. And therefore, where parties win clean, the will of the people should be respected. So all we can say is that we are hopeful